Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Red Circle, and the Five Reasons YouTube channel. We went live tonight. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn the notifications on. Also, check us out on Off the Floor. That's our new Discord server. You've got lots of different channels. You can communicate with us, with others. We're on there during games, between games, 24/7. That's where you find us these days. We're transitioning from Twitter, X, or whatever it is you want to call it. Check it out, $2.99 per month. Lots of additional content. You can find the link right here on the description on YouTube or on the podcast feeds or pinned to the top of the Five Reasons Twitter handle. And now, today's episode.
Down to Biscayne. Yikes. Five on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the Five Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor, doing this one live. You can also catch it after the fact on the podcast feeds. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and Five Reasons Sports. We've got Brady Hawk. You can follow Brady Hawk 305. Alex Toledo, you can follow at Tropical Blanket. Last podcast of the year. Not the way we thought that this would go. The Miami Heat dropped the second game of their road trip. They're now 19-13 on the season. They lose 117-109 to the Utah Jazz. The floor plan, actually, what we're going to do here, we're going to start a little differently than we typically do because the injury report is such a big part of this. So, Alex, tee it up, and then we will get to the players who played in this game and didn't finish this game.
And now it's time for the official Five on the Floor injury report, sponsored by our friend Eric Rubenstein, the personal injury attorney. Born and raised in Lauderdale, Florida, lives in Miami, went to St. Thomas. He's a South Florida guy and a huge Miami Heat fan. But the important thing is he can help you get your money that you deserve when something happens to you. So reach out to our guy, Eric Rubenstein. Again, ericrubenstein.com, or ask about me, I got you, on Instagram. And now, the injury report.
All right, so we knew who wasn't going to play tonight. Caleb Martin is still out. Josh Richardson is still out. Kyle Lowry is still out. That's designated as soreness. So who did start tonight? Jimmy Butler. Just the eighth time this season that the Heat have had Jimmy Butler, Tyler Herro, and Bam Adebayo to start a game. But Jimmy Butler hardly played in the sense of putting out a lot of effort, and then he left early. Injured his foot. It's being characterized as a foot injury by the Miami Heat. Of course, he's been dealing with a calf injury. He was also sick for a little while. He played 23 minutes tonight, 2 of 3 from the field. One of those was on a pass from Jovic, his personal pet project. He had finished with 8 points, but again, did not re-enter the game. And then Haywood Highsmith got in a collision with Colin Sexton, and it looked bad. He was helped off the floor. I don't know if he has a concussion. We can't really diagnose anything. We'll get a result after the fact, but he couldn't finish the game either, and he was going to be closing tonight. He ended up playing 26 minutes. But let's start with Jimmy before we get into the repercussions of kind of where this may go as the road trip continues. I feel like he never plays in LA, and now they got 2 games coming up in LA. Brady, I don't even know that it helped tonight when he was playing. Like, what did you see from him tonight?
It just felt like one of those going through the motions type games. That's kind of what it felt like, especially, in that first half. They weren't getting to the rim a ton. I mean, we were talking about that a ton throughout, at halftime. It was like there was a whole lot of mid-range play that got them through, and Tyler and Bam kind of held it down in that area to at least make it a close game. But they didn't have a lot going at the rim, and it's like, if you have Jaime starting instead of Bam in these other games, they have a guy, they're like, okay, we're just going to send him to the rim and get rim attempts out of this spot, this spot, this spot. When you have a game where Jimmy's playing and he's not really, doesn't have any shot attempts, it's like, where are you going with this? What are you going to generate your shots from? And then you add in the fact they weren't shooting well from 3 to start this game. It's like, if you're not having either one of those, it's a tough play. So, he didn't really seem to have it in a good flow. I wonder, did he come down on the foot wrong, or was it kind of just a layover of just things adding up over time? I'm not exactly sure. I know it originally was a calf, and now this is labeled as a foot, which is very vague. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But I probably would not expect him to play in LA, I would guess. And now they have to regroup with, with some other guys dropping out. They're going to have to put more on Tyler and Bam's plate. Jaime as much as we talk about Jaime stepping in for him, this wasn't Jaime's greatest game. Like, this was a rough game for him in terms of the turnovers, shots at the rim, the outside shot. He just wasn't getting a lot going. But 100%, they need more from Jimmy when he's playing. But then, Ethan, as we say that, we see what happens at certain points when you overplay him. And I'm not saying he's overplayed, because, he's on pace for like 60 games right now, and he's getting ready to miss more potentially. But you kind of see what you're dealing with and why they try to save him as much as possible.
Yeah, Alex, and we'll touch on the guys from Utah who hurt them tonight. But just on the Jimmy side, it just, I don't know. The team's had a pretty good offensive flow without him. I'm not going to make an argument that they're better without him. Let's not go there. That happens every time a player sits. We're all the way back to Dwayne Wade, now to Tyler Herro. I'm not going to do it with Jimmy, but he does play differently. And I just feel like when he comes out tonight and he's not looking to do anything, I mean, he wasn't really looking to do anything on either end. Like, we've talked about where he is in steals this year and playing the passing lanes. I'd almost rather, for their sake, he doesn't play. Because it looks to me like they look to him for energy, and when he's not providing any, then everybody just kind of gets lethargic, right? Like, I don't know. It sort of busted tonight, actually.
Yeah. And look, he just got back, so a rusty game could have been expected, but it was a lot more than just a rusty game. Like, he just wasn't really making himself available. And I really think he was playing more as like a ball mover and connector out there. I didn't think he was really attacking too much. And I know he started to put up more shots towards the end, as far as like of his playing time today before he got hurt. He was starting to actually get some shots up and do stuff before, but just not good. Just one of the worst games he's played this season, if not the worst, even before the injury. And yeah, like the numbers reflected tonight. And Brady mentioned this on playback. And of course, I'm going to signal here, playback.tv/5RSN, or download the app for free. We had a great time calling this god-awful, god-forsaken game. But, they had Jaquez starting before, and they were getting to the rim a little bit more. And we know how relentless Jaquez is getting there, whether it's in the post or off of drives or off of cuts, all that. He didn't have a great game tonight either. And then when you look at the rim attempts tonight, they finished with 11 attempts total at the rim. You know how much the Jazz finished with? 23. Like, the Jazz are supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league, man. Like, you can't be getting completely outmatched, out-hustled, out-energied, whatever word you want to use. That's what I feel like happened tonight. And really, I just think it started with Jimmy, right? There wasn't a lot going on in the beginning, and I thought Tyler did the best he could to get him, to keep him in this game offensively. I thought Bam had, like a nice stat line, but too many turnovers and missed free throws. And it was just a really sloppy game all around. And I feel like it started with Jimmy. So I'm not going to blame it all on him, because there was plenty of sloppy play all around from both teams, actually. A lot of misses, a lot of missed free throws, a lot of bad transition play. Just an ugly game. But Jimmy is supposed to be somebody that you hold to a higher standard, even if, it's lower expectations in the regular season. He came way short of what, of that regular season standard for him. He's got to be better.
It seems like sometimes with this team, when they have somebody out, that other guys step up and take ownership of the situation. And when they have more of their core healthy, and again, no Lowry, no Martin, no Richardson tonight. So that provided opportunities for others, including RJ Hampton and Nikola Jovic to start. We'll talk about that as we go forward. But it seems like when guys are out, that certain players will take ownership of the situation. And when everybody's playing, or their core group is playing, they all kind of look around at each other, deciding who's supposed to do what. So Bam and Tyler got themselves into this game. Tyler wasn't perfect tonight, but he was good enough. Okay. I mean, the stat line was certainly good enough, right? And Bam's stat line was good enough. But you mentioned, Alex, the missed free throws, which is, I mean, he got to the line 20 times. Like, that's, I mean, he did everything he had to do to get there. And none of the rest of the team missed free throws. He missed the free throws tonight in key spots. But it really was, to me, the defense. Like, they could not control, and we'll get to the gamer of the night in a second. They couldn't control. I guess we'll call it, because what people are calling it, the Dame package on the other side. Let's call this the Lowry package, right? Because we've talked all year about Olynyk and Sexton. You might as well roll this up, Alex, because the gamer of the night was going to come from one of these two guys. Although I did not realize what the Jazz rookie did to them at the end of the game and where he ended up tonight. But Give us the gamer of the night. We'll get into. Let's go do a little praise for Kelly O.
And now on 5 on the Floor, it's time for the Gamer of the Night, sponsored by Rock Esports Center, the place to eat, drink, and play all day. Host your next birthday party with them. Located at 15305 South Dixie Highway in Palmetto Bay. They've got a 5,500 square foot state-of-the-art center equipped with all the high-end power. Play all-day passes available for just $25, but if you mention 5 reasons, it's just $20. So mention 5 reasons or 5 RSN. You get to play all day for $20. And now, the Gamer of the Night.
We've talked about guys that Jaquez reminds us of. And the name has come up before. It's not the first time we've talked about it. But KO is one of those guys. Like, I'm not identical. But there's some things, Brady, that Kelly does that Jaquez kind of emulates. So tonight, KO destroyed Jaquez in those one-on-one matchups and just generally on the stat line. 19, 6, and 10, 8 of 12 from the floor. He's the gamer of the night, even though Sexton, 22 points on 8 of 14 shooting, and Keontae George off the bench, their first-round rookie, had 21 points and 6 rebounds and made some big shots late. But they couldn't do anything with KO. Like, every time he wanted to get to the basket, he got to the basket today. Honestly, Spo should show that film a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because that should not happen to Kelly Olynyk.
They're going to be showing a lot of film from that game because, as you mentioned, I mean, we could talk about the offense. We could talk about the turnovers, which we were probably going to. But the defense is what stood out to me in terms of, like, they've always won games in the mud when they were high turnover games, when they were inefficient. Like, they've won it on the defensive end, but you cannot have that stuff and have these problems on defense against a team that is just, like, not very good. Like, this isn't a team that you should be able to just have these type of problems against. So it's like, Olynyk was, I think, 100% the gamer of the night in this instance because he changed it felt like the trajectory of the game for the Jazz. Like, he kind of set a tone for them and got inside, and it was like, I'm glad you mentioned the Jaquez comp because I did kind of throw that out there earlier. I was like, just the way when he gets to his spots inside and he does the footwork and up fakes and up and unders. And it's like, he plays slow because he has to. Jaquez plays slow because he chooses to. I guess that's the one difference, but it still is similar in that way. As for the defense, number one, they were just allowing them. They were at one point. I don't know if you have it, Alex, what they shot, ended up shooting for 3, but it was at one point it was 3 for 21. And I know the fourth quarter, the Jazz shot really well from 3 with as you mentioned, Keontae George, but they were really struggling from 3. So it was like they have this guy that's kind of diving to the rim on Jaquez every time and getting to these spots, and they're helping down. And it's like they're still not being able to kind of push any narratives there. And then the big thing for me was the fact that they were kind of having like botched coverages. I don't know. It was like happening over and over where like it seems like they're getting to the point now when they have a bunch of, we used to complain or everybody used to complain about the full on switching where it was like, okay, this is happening. And then they're getting an offensive rebound and blah, blah, blah. But they knew what coverage they were playing every possession down. It felt like where now it's like sometimes they're like playing and drop and the guy doesn't know if it's a switch. And then there was one late, I think it was Olynyk that got in the paint where both defenders kind of went toward the guy on the wing and it was just a wide open pass inside and he laid it in. It's like, you can't have those type of botched coverages in the fourth quarter. That's just not this team. I remember I said it before. This team was second in defensive rating in the fourth quarter last year. It's like, you cannot have that type of drop off no matter who you're playing at any point. So I just thought the defense was just, you said earlier, Jimmy was not good enough. The defense was 100% not good enough. Like what I saw defensively, they did not deserve to win that game specifically. So Kelly Olynyk was a big reason for it.
Oh, so let's go through Spoelstra's decisions today and kind of why he made them. Because this was a weird rotation game. And again, this is the first time that they've had Jimmy, Jaquez, Herro, and Bam all out there together in forever. I don't know how many games they played. I guess it probably would be the same number because Jaquez has played every game, but Jaquez wasn't in the rotation in the same way early in the season when the other 3 were playing together that he is now. But okay, let's start with the beginning. Let's start with the decisions to start Hampton and Jovic with Herro, Bam, and Jimmy. Your thoughts on that before we get to some of the rotation stuff as he went forward?
It's like it's not going to sound good now, but I was a fan of the decision excuse me, before the game. Not because I thought like RJ and Jovic are absolute proven starter level players or anything like that. I just think like we've seen this before from the Heat when it comes to trying to get some of these guys who are outside of the rotation opportunities and maybe not want to mess with the bench too much. That's not what they did against the Warriors. They had these guys come off the bench and it, worked well. Maybe that's the move to kind of let them play their game a little bit instead of trying to fit in around their 3 best players. I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm there yet, but it didn't work tonight. I mean, RJ did not have a good game, and he ended up only playing, I feel like, that one stint. I don't remember if he came back in a second time. I think he only played like 9 total minutes, and Jovic had the foul trouble. And like he's shown stuff, but I didn't think he had a particularly great game either. That doesn't mean I'm against them doing that. I would like to see these guys play, nights like these for sure when you're missing dudes and you just need the bodies. I'd rather them play these guys than go to like a short rotation for sure in the regular season, especially against the Utah Jazz. Like I like it. It worked, playing those dudes against the Warriors again off the bench. So I was happy for them that they kind of got like the, sort of like a short term promotion there, and it just didn't work out. I would still like to see them get minutes, but yeah, it was not successful tonight.
I think he waited too long to go to Kane. Honestly, I think what we saw at the game before. I understand Jamal sometimes doesn't always make the best decisions. He's not the only one on the roster that's problem with. But coming off of that game, one of the things I don't love that Spoelstra does at times is he has a guy who's working well in one game and then totally gets away from him in the next game. I've noticed this trend over the years, and I'm like, ride the hot hand a little bit. Like Jamal came out of that game feeling pretty good to the point that Spo in the post game that we got to see that the Heat put on their social media, like praised him specifically after that game. He praised the 3 young guys. He was also talking about Hampton and Jovic, but I don't know why Hampton and Jovic would get minutes tonight, but Kane wouldn't, except for the fact that Jimmy was back. But I still think that there were minutes available for Jamal, and he found them in the second half, basically because he decided not to play Hampton and Jovic anymore. And I just think in a game like this where you needed a little bit more defense. Now, look, I know RJ is supposed to provide that. The thing with RJ right now is I think he's a worthwhile project. I do. But if he's not going to be a threat to shoot at all, like forget the fact that his shot looks broken, but if he's not going to be a threat to shoot at all, they're going to be playing 4-on-5 all the time with him out there. I would honestly rather play Kane then, because at least he's going to give you a little bit more in terms of offensive rebounding and just that kind of stuff that he provides. Like Kane's not afraid to do those things. Like sometimes it's clunky, sometimes it's awkward.
The
RJ
cutting
looks a
too.
little bit of unsure of himself at this point, right? I mean, I would have played Kane more even before Haywood got hurt. I would have played Kane more tonight. So, I want to get to a couple of the comments here, and then we'll get to the play. Do we even have a play of the night tonight? I'm going to leave this to you guys to come up with it. This is from Van Lee, who joins us a lot on playback. 5 years in, Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler still looks weird and clunky. Hasn't clicked at all. Our big 3 still can't play with our eyes closed together. We've talked about it. Greg's talked about it. It is this kind of. It's weird because they've been to the finals twice. They've been to the conference finals 3 times, but they've only played together in 8 games this year, and in 2 of those 8 games, one of the 3 of them didn't finish the game. So it's like there's no sample size for them with this group this year. This from Jonathan McNamara. We should have mentioned this a little bit more. Highsmith straight up got knocked out for like a half second. You can see how he landed on his head. Ugh. That looks like concussion protocol to me. We'll see how long, but I wouldn't expect you'll see him in LA. My guess is you're going to see Josh back based on where he was trending, and I think you could see Kyle back for
More
at least
Kane.
one of those 2 games. But I don't know about Caleb, and now I don't know about Butler. Yeah, more Jamal Kane, right? And then what else we got here? We'll get to it. This comes in from November 15th. I like how Duncan loves to penetrate and play make, but he needs to put up more threes. Like I thought Duncan played pretty well today. I thought he was underutilized. Brady, what did you think?
I feel like that's going to be the case in a lot of games. Like, I mean, his utilization is going to rise when they don't have like the Tylers and the Jimmys of the world like we've seen across that run. But 100%, I think they need to put, if they're going to utilize them in this way off the bench where they're kind of saying, well, we're going to put you here because in these lineups we could utilize you a little more. I think for sure you're going to have to see those attempts. He ended up 3 for 5 from 3, 4 for 8 from the field. Continues to be insanely efficient from 3. I think it is a point to be made that there's going to become a point where we're supposed like, okay, like the efficiency's pretty, but like at a point now where this team is, they need to get the ball up for him a little bit more. And part of that is there's this overreaction to him. And it gets back to the points we talked about, before he was even taken out of the rotation before. It was like, okay, how is he going to get these shots up when they're doing this? And he's balanced that out with the inside play. Well, now he needs to balance out the inside play, I guess, a little bit more with the threes. So it's not something I'm looking into a ton. And I think it's situational, and I think it depends on coverages. But I think he has to be like not afraid to be inefficient on a certain night, like Tyler is. Like as much as people talk about how at certain nights when Tyler's inefficient, they need his inefficiency at times because they need him, like the shot diet, to be that way. They need him to get certain looks up to kind of fulfill the offense. So I'd like to see that a little more from Duncan, especially with the fact of like, it feels like he can't hit an open three, but he'll hit the as we know with those games, Ethan, he'll hit a sidestep fadeaway contested. So it's like, get him up. And especially in a game like this, when Jimmy goes out, they need to find ways to do that. So I'm interested to see how they utilize it. I don't think it's about Spo putting him in different spots. I think it's just about him getting shots up.
This comes in from Van Lee, and then we're going to get to the play of the night and close this one out. Olynyk and Sexton match Lowry's contract perfectly. I'm sold. Not in the mood to get fleeced for marketing. We put this on playback tonight. Olynyk and Sexton for Lowry in a first is an interesting conversation. We've had it before. It's not the first time, but we will say the Kyle package played very well tonight. I don't know if I'm going to say that ever again. All right, let's get to the play of the night.
And now it's time for the Insurance by Lynette play of the night, sponsored by insurancebyLynette.com, an aggressive insurance agency. You can reach out to our friend Lynette at 954-581-8800. That's 954-581-8800, or insurancebyLynette.com. That's insurancebyLynette.com with 2 N's and 2 T's. Your best play for auto insurance, homeowners insurance, condo insurance, life insurance, or a retirement program. Reach out to Lynette at insurancebyLynette.com.
All right, let's get to it. Do we have a play of the night tonight that's not KO making the Heat defense look like Swiss cheese? We have something.
Maybe Jamal Cain's dunks. Jamal Cain had a couple of nice dunks. I can't really come up with any for the Heat.
I was gonna say,
really
I was gonna say the one, and this sounds, because Jovic ended up having 5 fouls. But how about the one where he came off the double screen and dumped it down to Jimmy, who's become his new best friend? That Jimmy's basically taken ownership of kind of making sure he gets into these starting lineups. So, I mean, the key there is number one, because we haven't talked a lot about Jovic and the foul trouble. Some of those were iffy. The charge, I thought he had good position on, but he's 100% handsy. Like it's like I said it on playback. He's a lot like Duncan in the first few years, where he kind of uses his hands a little too much instead of moving his feet. But that play specifically kind of shows how they're supposed to utilize him offensively. Like people joke around about the point Jovic, but like he needs the ball in his hands to be most effective when you're coming off a screen and be able to make those reads. And actually on that play where he dipped it down to Jimmy, Tyler was in the corner. And the reason why Jimmy had it wide open is because they can't help off of Tyler. So it's like, that's the other part of this. I still think even when they have guys out, and this keys back into the stuff we talked about with Duncan, I think they still have to leverage the Tyler off-ball stuff. Like they cannot just force the guy just to run pick and rolls and on-ball stuff into the ground. Like he's still such a good spot-up shooter. He's still such a gravity guy off the ball that they need to find ways to leverage that. Using Jovic on the ball and letting him play make with him off the ball is a way to do that.
I know this was not the intention, but it really did feel like Jimmy got you hit on it. It's like he came back so that Jovic could get some run in the starting lineup, and now we'll see Jimmy in 2 months. I hope for Heat fans that's not the case. All right, that's it. No more on this game. This was a weird game.
Can I drop a couple of stats before we end this?
No.
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 I have a couple here, and I think it goes with themes. I'll go to some quick ones. It's nothing crazy here. In the fourth quarter, outscored by 8. The rest of the 3 quarters, the margin between the teams was never more than 1 or 2 points. And then you go ahead and get outscored by 8.
Did they win more quarters? Is that what you're telling me? Is that so? It's like a win in their book.
Actually, they did. No, it was tied. It was tied. It was 2-2. It was tied. But no, every other quarter was the margin in the quarter was 1 or 2, and then the 4 quarters where things really blew open and they just kind of blew it. And the other one was the turnovers and points off turnovers. I know I hammer that all the time on post-game shows, but man, the Heat committed, I believe, 6 more turnovers tonight, 16 in total, and also got destroyed on points off turnovers, if I remember correctly. And man, that transition stuff, man, they got to fix that. And I feel like those three are like three things to monitor this season. The fourth quarter, whether or not they're sticking to their identity with forcing turnovers. I mean, they had their best players tonight. I know Josh and Caleb weren't there, and then of course their awful transition play, which to quantify it, 76.5 points per play in transition. How is it possible to have a way worse transition offensive rating than half court?
Because they turn every 4-on-1 into a 4-on-5, like or to a 1-on-5. Like I don't. For a team that is so well coached, they are completely disorganized in transition, and that has been the case forever. And I don't need to see Haywood Highsmith one-man breaks anymore. All right, that's it for tonight.
Wait, real quickly, X-rays on Jimmy Butler's
no.
foot came back negative. I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, they came back. Oh, that's good to know. Okay, so it'll
Good
only
job,
be 3
Brady.
weeks. All right. Thanks to Brady. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to everybody who was on playback with us today. Thanks everybody for joining us for the entire new year. Thanks to Greg for hitting my prize picks prop that he would miss the last couple of over 1.5. We probably will have a podcast for you on the new year. Make sure that you're checking out the YouTube channel for Dolphins Ravens content on Sunday, on New Year's Eve, and also the return of Messi and company, all kinds of stuff here on the channel. Happy New Year, everybody. No more stats, Alex. No more stats.
Check out our Discord, link in description. We love y'all. Happy New Year.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.